Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Jim Ernst. You are visiting Unity of Charlotte. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So nice to welcome you here in the sanctuary and you at home on Zoom. Welcome as well. And if you're watching this on a recording later on, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. So let us go ahead and move into our next slide, which is our mission statement. So please join me in saying, Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and serve spirit of God through the practice of unity principle. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. So it's so nice to have you all here. Is there anyone who is visiting us for the first or maybe even second time? Just gently raise your hand and we will just say hello. So it looks like we've all been here before. Fantastic. A few announcements here today. So we've got our fall book study is in swing. If you would like to join us today, that is at 2 o'clock in classroom 1. And then we repeat that again on Zoom on Wednesday at 7 p.m. So either one, whatever works best for you, join us as we take a closer look at those topics that are presented here on Sunday as well. Wild Women Wednesday, and I see Kay out in the hallway. She will be leading that. That is this Wednesday at 10 a.m. here in the building. So, do we have any wild women here? Okay. It's good to know. It's good to know. It's 5 of them. There is a call. Why don't you raise your hand? Yeah. Wednesday at 10, or this Wednesday at 10 a.m. And the men's group is meeting that day as well. So men are meeting at 9:30 a.m. Coming up, Ron, why don't you wave your hand on towards the end of the month on October 29th, correct? What time did we decide on that? I forget. 10 o'clock for the first. 10 a.m. for the first one. So that's in 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks, yeah. 3 weeks after this book study is done. We're going to be doing Mysteries of Dawn as a book by Charles Fillmore. Ron will be leading that Sunday mornings. So come early before the service at 10 a.m. and again in classroom 1 for that. It will be a reading in each morning, and we're planning on 10 Sundays, 2 chapters each Sunday, and we'll get through, and we will have read Mysteries of John. So looking forward to that. Our next slide is going to be Hispanic Heritage Month. We are in the middle of that, aren't we? Hispanic. We will have a Hispanic potluck on that first Sunday of November. So bring something Hispanic in terms of a dish to share. We will also have a ofrenda. Am I pronouncing that right? Ofrenda that you can join in with as well. And we'll give you more details as we get close to that first weekend in November. Also, theater ministry resumes. That is going to start when, Dr. Adrian?
We'll register by next Sunday for November.
Okay. Okay, so now's the time to register is what we're saying. We have 3 weeks. We have 3 weeks to prepare for this, but go online and we're going to have flyers out in the hallway and register for theater ministry that's coming up again. And just information only, we will not be having a pet blessing this year. We're going to ramp up for next year. Okay, we have a whole year to prepare for this pet blessing, and we'll track it up in the back because he knows what's going on. Yeah, so look forward to that in 2024. So let's go ahead and move. I also want to welcome Paul, who will be doing our music. So welcome, Paul. Okay, let's go ahead and move into prayer this morning as we settle in. We take that breath remove from our head all the busyness of our morning down into our heart as we feel that camaraderie here in the building that spills out over into Zoom as well. The blessing of coming together on Sunday. We're so grateful. We're grateful for this technology that allows us to reach out to the world on YouTube. We're blessed with this cool weather in this month of October. We're blessed with our message that Reverend Lisa will be giving us. We are so grateful. Acknowledging the oneness of the divine here with us now. And together we say. In our prayer for oneness, let's say this together. There is one presence and one power in my life and in yours. God, and now, if you have a loved one who is in need of prayer or a situation for yourself, even now's the time where we speak that name, speak that situation gently out loud as we collectively hold that situation in our hearts and love it. So say that name out loud now. We hold these loved ones in our hearts, holding it in prayer as we seek the best outcome for all of these situations. So it is. Also know that we have available to us Silent Unity. You can always call them on the phone. You can always text them using the Be Unity app, and they're available for you at any time. Okay, now it's time for our daily word. And our daily word readings today. Roberto? Yeah.
Good morning. The presence of God unites us as we work, play, and pray together. Joining with others to work makes the job easier. Joining together for fun multiplies the enjoyment. The camaraderie, cooperation, and support of togetherness give me a boost and brighten my mood. The indwelling Christ's presence is alive in all people everywhere. When I work, play, or pray with others, something greater than the sum of our individual efforts and insights results. The divine love that binds us multiplies as we recognize it in one another and give it fuller expression in ourselves. Work becomes more productive, play more enjoyable, and prayer more fulfilling. Together, we produce more good work and feel more joy and happiness than any of us could accomplish on our own. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them. Matthew 18:20.
Buen día a todos. La palabra diaria para hoy domingo, 8 de octubre de 2023. Juntos o unidos. La presencia de Dios nos une mientras trabajamos, jugamos y oramos juntos. Unirse a otros para trabajar hace la labor más fácil. Unirse para divertirse multiplica el disfrute. La camaradería, la cooperación y la unión me alientan y alegran mi estado de ánimo. La presencia de Cristo morador está vivo en todos y en todas partes. Juntos logramos más que la suma de nuestros esfuerzos y percepciones individuales a lograr. trabajar o jugar. El amor divino que nos une se multiplica en la medida que lo reconocemos en todo y le damos una expresión más completa en nosotros mismos. El trabajo se vuelve más productivo, el juego más agradable y la oración más satisfactoria. Juntos trabajamos mejor, sentimos más felicidad que lo que cualquiera de nosotros podría lograr individualmente. Porque donde dos o tres se reúnen en mi nombre, ahí estoy yo en medio de ellos. Mateo 18:20. Gracias.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As some of you may know, Reverend Jim and I were away this past week to the UMass, which is a sub-regional group under our Southeast region for Unity. And it's kind of a support for ministers and lay leaders of churches. And they called it a retreat. Now, I have an idea of what a retreat is. It was more like a conference because it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. We got to meet lots of ministers that are in other churches, other Unity churches in our mid-Atlantic states. But we were booked with activities from 7 in the morning till 9:30 at night. So we're renewed in spirit, but the body a little bit less. We were driving home on Friday, so if I get a little tongue-tied, please forgive me. We're still kind of recouping. But what a great experience. First of all, Lake Junaluska, who's been up there? Yes, gorgeous. If you ever have an opportunity, absolutely beautiful. Fall's just beginning to tinge the leaves, so in another couple of weeks, it's going to be spectacular. So my talk today is going to be a follow-up of what Reverend Jim talked about last week. We're still going through the book by Eric Butterworth, Discover the Power Within You. And what's so amazing is that there is this consistent theme through every chapter. And we look at it from all these different perspectives. But so today we're going to be talking about prayer, all-sufficiency, and the miracle of abundance. That is 3 chapters rolled into one in 20 minutes. No, we're just going to be highlighting some of the ideas there that are going to be sort of an in-depth, going a little more in depth with what Reverend Jim presented last week, which was how powerful our thoughts are to create and manifest our life. It's funny because one of the wonderful things about being there is we had incredible keynote speakers at our retreat, and they told lots of good stories. And Jim and I were like, "Oh, that's a great story. I'm going to tell that one." So driving home, I'm going, "Well, I'm going to tell this story in my talk." He's like, "No, I planned on telling that story." So we had to do a little negotiating to say who got what story. So I hope you enjoy them. I'm going to start off. Eric Butterworth says, "We live in an opulent, limitless, and accommodating universe." Let me say that again because it's just really fun to say. We live in an opulent, limitless, accommodating universe. That is an incredible idea. Because not only is he saying there's this incredibly opulent universe, but it accommodates us. So that means we have access to this. As a matter of fact, we're going to find out we are a part of that opulent, limitless, accommodating universe. We are an active part of it. Therefore, we are opulent, limitless, and accommodating. Does your life feel that way? Sometimes. I've certainly had moments of tapping into that and seeing that beauty and that amazing opulence. But I have to also admit that there's times when, I get involved in my worldly activities and I kind of go back to that habitual human thought of limited time, limited resources. How am I going to get this done? And I forget how big we really are. So to share a little bit of my story growing up, I grew up in a family. There were I had 4 siblings and myself, 5 kids altogether. I would say we were in the kind of lower middle class economic status. I was never without food, never without a home, never without clothes or what I needed. But I grew up with the idea that we had little and we had to make the best of what we had. And we did, my parents did an amazing job. I grew up with, when my dad used to travel during the week, when he was traveling, my mom would cook. We would have for dinner tuna noodle casserole, sloppy joes, what else? Macaroni, cheese, and hot dogs. Now, nothing wrong with these foods, and it's great to feed a lot of kids. But, and then my dad would come home and she'd make a beautiful Italian dinner, right? So she did an amazing job with what she had for 5 kids. But I grew up with this idea and belief that we are not rich. That's what I believed. And that's how I lived my life. I am not rich. The rich people have all the designer brands and the designer clothes, but we're not rich. So this is a belief I carried with me into my adulthood. And at some point said, okay, I began to hear these ideas of this opulent, limitless universe in which I am and that God is. And I said, well, where is it? I want some of that. And I started to do my work. And I started to create affirmations and do a vision board and see money in the bank and see checks coming to me in the mail. And I struggled with that for quite a while without really feeling like anything had changed. And I'll come back to this story as we move forward, because we're going to be looking at what is abundance. And we're going to explore what we mean by substance. Because Eric Butterworth talks about infinite substance. And Reverend Jim talked about this is what our thoughts draw upon, infinite substance to manifest in our life. So if I looked up the definition of abundant, and the definition in just a dictionary is beyond measure, more, or a quantity so abundant as to be considerably more than what one would expect or anticipate. More than what we expect is it's like there's even more than what we can imagine. It's more. Deepak Chopra has a really interesting definition for abundance, and I wanted to share that because he said abundance is a state where nothing is lacking and so complete that nothing can diminish it. So an abundant life is living in a state where nothing is lacking and nothing can diminish it because it's a sense of completeness. That's a really different take on abundance. And I like it because now we're talking about a state of mind. Because we know, most of us here anyway, know it's not about more things. Because we can get more and more things and still not feel rich. Certainly I experienced that as I started to go out in my young life and work, and I got a corporate job and I started making a salary and I started getting things. It was fun, but I still didn't feel rich. Jesus told us that he came here so that we may have life and we may have it abundantly. And when we look at that, so now we're going to go look at his teachings and what he meant by that. We're going to explore what it means, what is meant by substance, what is a miracle, and how is prayer the vehicle to live in miracles of abundance. So let's start with the idea of substance. If we look at the metaphysical interpretation of the word substance by Charles Fillmore, it says this: it is the spiritual essence out of which all things are made. The spiritual essence out of which all things are made. It is visible and comprehensible to mind, but the five senses of man cannot apprehend it. So it isn't something we can taste and touch and see and feel, but we can comprehend it with our mind and our thoughts. That's what substance is when we're talking about substance. So one of the stories I get to share today is one I heard from Reverend Darlene Strickland, who is the Unity Minister at Unity of the Blue Ridge, and she was one of our keynote speakers. And she shared a story. Well, it's really not a story. It's about a project called the Global Seed Vault. Has anyone heard of the Global Seed Vault? I'm not good. A couple of people have. There's a vault in, let me see if I can pronounce this. Svalbard, Norway. Ted gets 5 points. It is a huge vault that is as far into the Arctic as you can go and still be accessible by train. So it's far away from everybody, but it's still accessible to get by transportation. And they have it up there because all these seeds, there's 1.1 million varieties of seeds that have been collected from around the world, from every culture, and they're stored, and there's room for another million or more. So they're not done. They're still collecting. And it's stored up there because it's kept at the permafrost level. When it's kept in -degrees, that actually keeps the seeds in stasis, so they stay alive but dormant. So the reason I share this with you is I was hearing this story and I'm thinking, oh, it's kind of like our infinite substance. It's like there's this universal vault of seeds. Because what does a seed need to come into a manifestation of a plant? It has to be taken out and planted and nurtured. And from a spiritual perspective, it's an idea in the mind of God, in universal mind, that we can take hold of, bring it into our mind, and through our own power of creativity and imagination, feed our beliefs and our ideas and our understanding of it and have it manifest in our life. So we have this universal seed vault called substance. Another way I like to think of substance is it's kind of like Play-Doh. Who remembers Play-Doh? Okay, good. We got good. You remember Play-Doh. As a kid, you get it, and all you have is this glob of whatever, and with your imagination, you can turn it into anything, almost anyway. Kind of a limited perspective, but it's kind of the idea that you've got substance here to play with, and it's your imagination that turns it into something. So throw in some Legos and you can create a whole universe. Play-Doh and Legos. This is just an idea or a way of envisioning this universal substance that's all around us, that it's like we swim in it, but we're actually also a part of it, and it's available to us. It's our creative ability to be able to lay hold of these seeds, these divine ideas in the invisible substance in mind, and bring them forth into manifestation in our lives in form. That's how we create bodies. All physical form begins in the invisible substance of mind, which, remember, is opulent and limitless. But when we bring it down into our consciousness, our individual consciousness, we lay on it our limited understanding of it. So if I am in a belief that I am not rich, I can take these unlimited ideas, but how they're going to manifest in my life is going to look like lack. It's going to look like somebody else gets all the riches because I'm not rich. When we see a demonstration of this, what do we think? Oh, that's a miracle. People who manifest like the most amazing things in their lives, we go, oh, how do they do that? That's a miracle. We say miracles often like there's no sense to them. A miracle is sort of something out of the natural way of being. But we'll look at that a little bit closer in just a moment. First, I want to bring us to a quote by Charles Fillmore, because knowing that we have this infinite substance to work with, and it is limitless and opulent, but when I bring it into my own mind, I can only express it based on how much I believe it can be. So if I believe it can only be a little bit, then that's what I'm going to manifest in my life, right? So let's look at, this was one of the affirmations that I started to use instead of, I want a lot of money. Right? Because I was affirming for a lot of money. I was affirming a big bank account, and I was affirming checks coming in, and I was affirming all the things that I wanted to outwardly manifest. But I forgot to first remember my true source. So when I heard this was the beginning of the change of my mind and the beginning of my awareness of what prosperity consciousness really means. God is the source of a mighty stream of substance, and you are a tributary of that stream, a channel of expression. God is a mighty stream of substance, unlimited, opulent substance. And I am a channel of expression of that stream of substance. Let's just pause for a moment here, because I want you to just let these words come into your mind fully. If you want to gently close your eyes and just take a centering breath. Open your heart, open your mind, and just let these words, God is the source of a mighty stream of substance, and I am a tributary of that stream, a channel of expression. How does that feel? Let's go on to the second part of this, where he reminds us that the more conscious we become of the presence of the living substance, the more it will manifest itself for us, and the richer will be the common good for all. I really love this because this is the step I was missing in my struggle to try to be more prosperous in my life. What I wanted was more money, but I was not reconnecting to the source of all good. So I kept living in the belief that I'm not rich, but I want more money. But when I'm standing in this idea that God is all substance and I am a part of that stream, the more I live in that consciousness, the more doors just started to open. I didn't have to define how that was going to come to me. It just begins to, because the universe is accommodating. When you connect to these divine ideas of abundance and prosperity and light and love and wholeness and oneness, when you connect to those in your consciousness, you automatically begin to manifest them because the universe is going, oh yeah, and it just starts flowing. Now it's always flowing. What you're providing is an open door. You're providing an open door. But the beautiful thing about this, it's not just me that's getting rich. It's for the common good for all. If I don't limit the good coming through me, into me, expressing through me and as me, then what I am in this world is good for all, not just me. And that's incredible. So now let's move on to what miracles are. Because I said before, often we see people who can match. Jesus was known, very well known, for the miracles that he performed. Miracles that were signs of who he was as an awakened Christ consciousness in this world, expressing God without limit. He knew these spiritual principles. Now, when we think of a miracle, do you sometimes think of something that just like appears out of thin air? Wow, that was a miracle. It just happened. It's almost supernatural, right? We think of the word supernatural. And Eric Butterworth really talks about that because he said, really, the miracle is the all-sufficiency and ever availability of infinite substance. That's the miracle. The miracle is a consciousness connected to this all-sufficient, ever-present, infinite substance that we are a part of and can draw upon. Jesus stood as a master of these spiritual laws and demonstrated them to us. Now, did he do that and said, look at me, I'm the only one that can do this? No, he actually taught his disciples how to do this, and he sent them out in twos to go work miracles so that they would grow in their own understanding of the spiritual laws that are potentially available to every single one of us. And that's the miracle. Now, miracles are the most natural thing that can happen. If some of you, I know some of you are in A Course in Miracles, and in A Course in Miracles, it describes the miracle as a correction. The miracle as a correction. It undoes error, and it illustrates the law of truth the world does not obey. Meaning when we're living from our worldly consciousness and out of awareness and connection to this divine substance, which is God, then I live in a cycle of, I'm not rich. There's lack. I'm separated. And that is actually not natural. That is really not our natural state. Our natural state is to be this flow of infinite substance manifested here in form. And Jesus showed it, he demonstrated it, and he said, now it's yours. Now you wake up and do it. So some of the miracles that we were looking at in the book, Fishes and Loaves, when he was delivering the Sermon on the Mount, everybody kind of is familiar with that one. And he was actually teaching through these miracles because he took bread, and bread, as you may know, metaphysically symbolizes substance. And the first thing he does is bless it. And this is always the first step in our shifting consciousness to be that open channel of expression of infinite substance. Is because when we bless it, I don't remember a couple of weeks ago, I said blessing is a powerful, powerful tool, because when we bless, we are activating that spiritual energy within us and offering it and seeing it alive in the other. When he blesses this bread, he's saying, I'm not limited to this form of the bread. I know this just represents substance. And then he broke it open and he shared it. He gave it out. That is the energy we live in when we remember that we are opulent and unlimited. We may look at something in form, there's always going to appear to be a limitation to it because that's the nature of our human form. But it can not limit our minds. And when we look at the form, regardless of what it looks like, in here he says, if you're looking at an empty purse and you're wanting money, you bless that purse. You bless it and see it as an open channel of expression for prosperity. You bless everything you have. And I have to say, as a child, I grew up believing I was not rich, but I look back at my childhood now as an adult, as someone who has matured in not only in human perspectives, but in my spiritual perspectives. And I realized how blessed I was. How many blessings I had in my life with my family and all the things I was given in my life and how rich I truly was. Don't you sometimes wish, God, I could just go back and do that again? But we don't have to, because that was the journey that got me here, where I can look back and go, wow, I was always prosperous. I was always rich. I just didn't know how to see it at the time. Miracles are not supernatural. They're the most natural thing in reality. This is what Eric Butterworth reminds us of. Because they follow the spiritual law of mind, idea, expression, the flow of creation. The law of creation, mind, idea, expression means their mind is this unlimited substance, invisible Play-Doh, where it can be taken and formed into anything. Idea is when we take that idea and we bring it in to our individual awareness. And then I begin to play with it with my own individual experience and personality and like whoever I am expressing as an individuation of the Christ in this world. And then I bring it into form. I become the channel that it becomes form. And that's the expression. So how do we live in miracles? How do we live in miracles? Well, we spent a lot of time talking about affirmative prayer a couple of months ago, and we had the affirmative prayer classes. And the reason we bring that up is because that's the vehicle. At least it's one of the vehicles, and it's the one we're using here at Unity. It's one of the foundational vehicles for opening yourself up as a channel of unlimited substance expression and living it in your life. Because what does prayer do? There's a wonderful quote in here by Butterworth, because he says, God can do no more for you than God can do through you. How many of you have heard that? Yeah. God can do no more for you than he can do through you. Because God is already everything. And everything is already being offered to you. So here's the vision that came to me. I'm thirsty, so I go stand at the sink and I stare at the tap. And I say, God, please bring me some water through this tap because I'm so thirsty. And then I stand there and wait for water to come through the tap. The water's there, right? The water's always there. But I'm the one that forgot to turn the tap open to let it flow. So if there's any disconnection, it's never on the side of God. God's this constant, ever-present availability of infinite, opulent substance. We have to remember to keep that door open, to keep our minds and hearts open, to do the practice of prayer is to practice shifting consciousness out of our limited human perspective to that broader, expansive awareness of who we are as spiritual beings, and then bringing that into human expression. That's prayer. So that's really different from saying, well, I really want more money. I really need more money. I'm going to visualize it. I'm going to ask for it. Now, it's not to say that you may still create a vision board and you may still see those checks coming in and that money in the bank. But that won't really open up the channel. But as you open up the channel first, then you have the universe going, oh yeah, I see money in the bank. Oh, money in the bank. Okay. Checks coming in the mail. Okay. New job. It's the first step. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. Shift that consciousness to an openness and recognition. Matter of fact, what Eric Butterworth says is we must stake a claim. We need to stake our claim in infinite mind. Stake your claim in infinite mind. He says, it is our divine inheritance to utilize our creative abilities to shape substance in the form of our material needs. So this is an affirmation I'm going to offer you today. It's the one that I used along with God is the mighty stream of substance. I use this one over and over and over. Every time my mind started to go, I don't have, I can't do, it's not for me. Every time I started to go, I can't afford it, I'd stop and go, oh, been down that path, really don't care for the effects of it. I think I'm going to change the path I'm going to take. And this is what I would say is God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply. This was very powerful for me because it says God is instant. I don't have to wait for the supply. It's already there. It is constant. There's never a time it's less or more. It's always fully present and available. And it is abundant. There is no lack in God, and there is no lack in me. I am indeed rich. I am rich in ways that I never imagined before. Remember, abundance is more. It's more than you can conceive of. And when I am open and I feel that powerful substance of God that I am one with, I recognize my richness in ways I had never imagined before. I can imagine richness for Unity of Charlotte as a community in ways that we've never imagined before. Can you? Let's do that together and see where we go. So this is what prayer is meant for. We often go to prayer when we feel a need. So it's very common to want to go into prayer and ask for what we think we need to fulfill that need. But I'm offering you and inviting you to go into prayer, forget your need, your specific need, and seek first a conscious awareness of this infinite substance and supply as God. If this affirmation doesn't work for you, create your own. One that reminds you of who you are in your spiritual essence, and that you live in an opulent, limitless, and abundant universe. And then remember to bless everything and amp up your gratitude. Blessings and gratitude. When you shift into that consciousness, that's what naturally begins to happen. And that's what happened for me, going from believing I was not rich and I lacked and I didn't have all these things to looking back over my childhood and everything that happened through my life and feeling the blessing of it. And then standing in this moment and sharing that blessing with everything that comes into my life and feeling that gratitude. All right. So we have looked at the idea that we live in an opulent, limitless, and accommodating universe. Opulent, limitless, and accommodating universe. We have remembered that as we become more conscious of the eternal, everywhere present substance of God, the more we will live from a mind of abundance and manifest miracles in a thriving life. That's our call. And finally, prayer is our vehicle to reconnect to the source of this substance, to reconnect to our own divine essence and power, to reclaim our divine inheritance and live miracles from there. And that is the most natural thing you could do. So with that, I invite you to sit back and let's do a meditation on I'm going to leave this affirmation up in case you want to use it. Actually, before we go into meditation, let's speak these words out loud 3 times. We'll start out softly. Ready? God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply. One more time with a little more volume. God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply. Now this time I want you to feel it with every cell of your being. God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply. And so it is. Gently close your eyes. Sit back. Take a nice deep cleansing breath in. And let it out on a sigh. One more deep breath in. And out on a slow sigh as you just relax into this moment. Focus on your breath for just a moment, knowing that it is divine substance you breathe in and breathe out. It is divine substance that fills and manifests every cell in your body. It is divine substance in the air around you, in the ground below your feet, in the skies above your head, in literally every direction, everywhere. Divine substance is the presence. If you have any thought of lack or I can't, perhaps even as you go into this quiet moment, if you feel a sense of struggle, just breathe into it. Say, that's okay. God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply. Right here, right now. And we'll take a moment of silence to just let this seep into our consciousness. And when you're ready, gently bring your attention back to the room, back to the sanctuary, this sacred place where we are joined together in heart and mind, knowing that as you move forward through your day, there is never a moment that you do not have access to an opulent, limitless, and accommodating universe. And so it is.
Now we move into that offering part of our service, because we know that as we give, we also receive. It's through your generous gifts and giving that Unity of Charlotte continues to be a light into the community. We have our consistent giving ways, you know, that you can set up, that you can use that donate button on our website. You can text on using your smartphone. There's bill pay through your own bank, that QR code. We've also got PayPal, the PayPal QR code out in the hallway there as well. All these different ways, and you can also give cash. Amazing. So many ways, so many ways.
So accommodating.
So accommodating. So together, our prosperity blessing. Joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence, blessed and multiplied, all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God washes over us. We are presence together wherever we are. God is, and all is well.